When no one is watching, what do you do? If no one was watching, what would you do? Would you still be good? Would you have a reason to be good when you think that there will be no consequences for your actions? Would you still be good? Or would you be brutal, barbaric, bloodthirsty, violent, depraved? Would you kill, steal, torture? Would you still be good? This video is a heartbreaking mess. Some viewers may find this incredibly disturbing. Viewers' discretion is advised. Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for clicking on this video. My name is Omodele Salu, and if you're here, that means you're invested in true crime content as much as I am. So welcome, take a seat. I'm going to be posting a lot of contents like this, so if this is something that you like, please like, subscribe, and turn that notification bell on so you can get notified when I post a new video. Now that all that is out of the way, let's get right into today's case. And today's case takes us all the way to Japan. Junko Furuta was born on the 18th of January in 1971 in Misato, Saitama, Japan. She lived with her parents, her older brother, and her younger brother. Junko was pretty and intelligent. She got really good grades and was also very well liked by the people around her. She worked at a plastic molding company during after-school hours. She did this to save up some money for a graduation trip she had planned. She also accepted a job at an electronics retail store where she planned to work after she graduated. Junko also had dreams of becoming an idol singer. On the 25th of November 1988, Junko was riding home on a bike when a teenage boy kicked her off her bike and fled the scene. Soon, another teenage boy rushed to help her and offered to walk her home, which she happily accepted. After all, this was a schoolmate she was familiar with. But he did not walk her home. Instead, he walked her to an abandoned building and started to threaten her. He told her that he was a member of Yakuza, an organized crime syndicate in Japan. He then raped her in the warehouse, took her to a nearby hotel, and then raped her yet again. After that, he called his friends to brag about the rape. One of his friends told him not to let her go, that he wanted many more people to sexually assault her. At this point, we can only imagine what is going on in the mind of Junko Furuta. This boy that she thought she knew, her schoolmate, her good Samaritan, was now here threatening to kill her and raping her. But the thing is, this boy was no good Samaritan. In fact, he had planned everything, every single moment of this. From the moment where the other teenage boy had kicked her off the bike to the very moment they were in right now. Hiroshi Miyano, the boy who had helped her, and Shinji Minato, the boy who had kicked her off a bike, were actually friends. And they were both in this friend group, right? The other boys in this friend group were Joe Ogura and Yasushi Watanabe. Now, this friend group, they spent most of their time committing crimes from extortion to theft to rape and one time gang rape. Bear in mind that these children were just teenagers. They were like 16 to 18 years old. Hiroshi Miyano, who was 18 years old at the time, was the oldest and the leader of the gang. He had a history of problematic behavior since elementary school. He was often caught shoplifting and damaging school property. In April of 1986, he enrolled in a private high school in Tokyo and dropped out the following year. After this, he continued to commit several crimes that escalated over time. He was living with his girlfriend, the older sister of Yasushi Watanabe, and was working as a tile worker to save up money to marry her. But he got really unsatisfied with the job's low pay, and so he started committing crimes. This made his girlfriend lose interest in the relationship altogether, and the relationship ended. While in school, Hiroshi Miyano was known as the school bully. He would often brag to people about his Yakuza connections. According to some of their schoolmates, Hiroshi Miyano had developed somewhat of a crush on Junko Furuta, and when he told her about this, she turned him down, and this made him so angry because people were supposed to be scared of him, right? And no one was out here turning him down, especially after he told them about his Yakuza friends. Now, we're back at the hotel where Hiroshi took Junko to from the warehouse. At around 3 a.m., Hiroshi moved Junko yet again, this time to a nearby park where Joe Ogura, Shinji Minato, and Yasushi Watanabe were waiting. They found her home address written in a notebook in her school bag, and they took this address and told her, like, look, if you ever try to escape, we are going to go to your house with our Yakuza friends and kill all your family. And this really scared Junko Furuta. They then overpowered her and took her to a house in the Ayase district of Adachi where they gang raped her. Now, this house belonged to Shinji Minato's parents, and it was in this house that Junko Furuta endured her own personal hell for 44 days. On the 27th of November 1988, 2 days after Junko Furuta was kidnapped, Junko Furuta's parents contacted the police about her disappearance, but not long after that, the investigation was stopped. This was because the boys had forced Junko Furuta to call her mom 3 times to try and convince her that she was actually safe and just staying with friends. And so the police thought that this was a case of a runaway, and they thought it would be better to put their resources into a case where there was an actual victim. On the night of the 28th of November 1988, Hiroshi Miyano invited 2 other boys, Tetsuo Nakamura and Koichi Ihara, over to the house. They all go upstairs to the room that Junko Furuta was. There were 4 of them: Hiroshi Miyano, Shinji Minato, the one who lives there, and Koichi Ihara and Tetsuo Nakamura. Now, these boys, they drank cough medicine and started pretending like it was getting them high. They started acting out, and this made Junko Furuta really scared. She tried to run away, and she was screaming in fear. Hiroshi grabbed her leg, and Ihara put a pillow over her mouth to muffle her screams, and then they go ahead to gang rape her. At this point, Junko Furuta was in a state of unconsciousness. She was just staring up at the ceiling without blinking. The boys held Junko Furuta captive in Shinji Minato's house for 44 days, where they repeatedly beat, raped, and tortured her. They would also invite other men and teenage boys home and encourage them to take turns raping her. It was believed that Junko Furuta was raped more than 500 times by over 100 men and teenage boys. Sometimes she would be raped by more than 10 boys in a day. The 4 boys shaved her pubic hair, and they would force her to dance naked to music and also force her to masturbate in front of them. After all of that, they would leave her on the balcony in the middle of the night in the freezing cold with little to no clothes on. They inserted objects into Junko Furuta's private parts, including a lit match, a metal rod, and a bottle. They would also force feed her large amounts of alcohol, water, and milk. The boys also forced her to smoke multiple cigarettes at once and also to inhale paint thinner. Junko Furuta became severely malnourished because she was only being fed small amounts of food. Because of how badly they treated her, the injuries, the burns, she became so weak she could not take herself to the bathroom, and so she had to be confined to the floor of Shinji Minato's room. The attacks on Junko Furuta were so brutal that her looks were completely altered. Her face was so swollen that it was so hard to make out her features. Her body was crippled and was beginning to rotten. Because of this, the boys started to feel repulsed by her. They lost all sexual interest in her, and so they decided to kidnap and gang rape another girl. This girl was a 19-year-old girl, and like Junko Furuta, she was just going home from work. On the 4th of January 1989, after losing a game of mahjong, Hiroshi Miyano decided to take its anger and frustration out on Junko Furuta. He poured lighter fluid on her body and set her on fire. Junko Furuta tried to put out the fire, and the boys just started to beat her, to punch her. According to reports, they ignited a candle and dripped the hot wax on her face. They placed 2 short candles on her eyelids and then forced her to drink her own urine. She collapsed and burst into a fit of convulsions. She was bleeding profusely and pus started to come out of her infected burns. They continued to beat her and dropped an iron exercise ball on her stomach several times. This brutal attack reportedly lasted for 2 hours, and eventually Junko Furuta succumbed to her injuries and died. When they saw that she had died, they got so afraid that they would be charged with her murder, so they wrapped her body in blankets and placed it in a traveling bag. They then put the bag into a drum and filled it with wet concrete. They then disposed the drum into a cement truck and went their way. During her captivity, Junko Furuta had told the boys that she regretted not being able to watch the final episode of Dragonfly, and so Hiroshi Miyano went to find the videotape of that episode and then put it in the travel bag with her body. And he did not do this because he was feeling some type of remorse. He did it for selfish reasons. He wanted to be sure that her ghost would not return to haunt him. On the 23rd of January 1989, Hiroshi Miyano and Joe Ogura were arrested for the sexual assault of a 19-year-old girl they had kidnapped in December of the previous year. When the police started to interrogate them, Hiroshi Miyano thought that the police were asking them about Junko Furuta, and because of that, he thought the police probably got this information from Joe Ogura, so he thought Joe had actually confessed, and so he too started to confess, and he also told them where to find her body. Now, the police had no idea what they were talking about. They were talking about an entirely different person, an entirely different case. And so they're just thinking, what the actual... The police found the drum containing Junko Furuta's body the next day. She was identified by her fingerprints. Hiroshi Miyano, Joe Ogura, Yasushi Watanabe, Shinji Minato, and Shinji Minato's brother were all arrested for the murder of Junko Furuta. Several other accomplices were also identified and arrested. They were charged with rape after their DNA was found on and inside the victim's body. During the trial, the identities of the boys were sealed by the court because as at the time they committed this crime, they were basically still juveniles, right? But a journalist said, no, you guys do not get to keep your privacy. You do not deserve to have your anonymity upheld by the court after this horrible thing you just did. And so it went to find their identities and just published it. Despite the amount of evidence against these boys and how brutal, gruesome, barbaric the attacks were, these boys received shockingly light sentences. Hiroshi Miyano was sentenced to just 20 years in prison. Shinji Minato received a term of 5 to 9 years. Joe Ogura was sentenced to just 5 to 10 years in prison. And Yasushi Watanabe received a term of just 5 to 7 years. These little shitheads got away with so much, and they were not even remorseful. After they got released from prison, they even went ahead to commit other crimes. And some of them even got rearrested. The only person that did not do this madness was Yasushi Watanabe, but still, they got away so easy. Even the one that got like the one that got the most sentence, that is 20 years in prison, Hiroshi Miyano, he was like 18. So when he gets released from prison, he will be like what? 38, 39. Life can begin at 38, 39 for him. But what about Junko Furuta? What about Junko Furuta's parents? Where was their justice? A lot of people believe that, considering the severity of this crime, the sentence was too light, right? And I agree, because what is that? Like, why did they get off so easy? I know, yes, they were young, but still. And the most painful part about this is that Junko Furuta could have actually made it out of this alive if the adults in her life weren't so unuseful. Shinji Minato's parents, they knew about Junko Furuta, but they chose to believe that she was their son's girlfriend. Even when they started suspecting, a lot of people believe that it's because of Shinji's supposed connections to the Yakuza, but still, you guys could not have done anything. And then Junko Furuta once she tried to like reach out to the police. She called them, and then the police, they called back. She called them before she could say anything. The boys came, and then the police called back, and the boys tried to like convince them that no, this was just a mistake and there was no follow-up. And again, a boy that Hiroshi Miyano invited to the house saw Junko Furuta, and when he went home, he went to tell his brother all the craziness that was going on in the house. Then his brother told his parents, and then the parents told the police, and then the police came to the house. And the family of Shinji Minato were able to convince the police that there was no girl in the house. I don't know what to say. This is so sad. It's just how was this? How was this possible? How did this happen? How were they able to? And they were even still trying to protect them because they are like minors or whatever. I'm sorry. This is so fucked up. And that brings us to the end of today's case. You all take care of yourselves. Please like and subscribe if you haven't done that already. And I will see you for the next one. And that brings us to the end of today's case. You all take care of yourselves. Oh, please like and subscribe if you haven't done that already. Oh, and I'll see you. Oh, I'll see you. Hey, I'll see you for the next one. Hey. I have too much time on my hands. I need a job. Somebody give me a job. I need a job. My head is heavy. Why is my head so heavy? Why do I feel like... Boo, 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 boo.